This weekend we are poised for a great London Premier League encounter between Chelsea and Arsenal at Stamford Bridge. The game will showcase the rivalry between two of the biggest clubs in London. Mauricio Pochettino will make his first face-off with Mikel Arteta at Stamford Bridge, with Mikel Arteta looking quite great in his project. Let's look at the key players for Arsenal. The first two key players are Declan Rice and Thomas Partey, who will be instrumental on how Arsenal would like to impose themselves in the game. The role of Martin Odegaard as the player in between the lines and the sole creator for Arsenal will also be quite crucial. The wide areas marshaled by Saka and Martinelli will also be quite crucial and will determine how the game will be won, as well as the pacey and intelligent Gabriel Jesus, who will lead the line for Arsenal. The key players for Chelsea include Thiago Silva. How he marshals the backline and dictates the game will be quite important. Also, the pivot of Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez will be quite crucial on how Chelsea can beat the press and impose themselves in the game. The role of Cole Palmer picking up spaces in between the lines and linking midfield and attack will also be quite crucial. And most importantly, the role of Nicholas Jackson in holding defenders and creating space with his runs will also be quite important for Chelsea. So before we start our analysis, do not forget to like, share and subscribe. So our first checkup will be Arsenal, and we're going to look at how Arsenal will line up tactically. Arsenal are more likely to line up in a 4-2-3-1 system, with Partey coming in for Jorginho, Odegaard starting and Saka coming back to the team. This will see Jesus starting as the number 9, while Martinelli will start down the wide areas. We're also going to see how the team is going to arrange itself in possession. That is our analysis now. Arsenal like to build from the back. This involves spreading the centre backs wide with their goalkeeper stepping out. This sees the fullbacks one of the fullbacks, Ben White, hugging the touchline while the wingers starting wide and high. Declan Rice might start high so that Zinchenko can invert in midfield and pull out Palmer. So if the ball is played to Gabriel might attempt a pass to Declan Rice, who's high up the pitch, who might try to link up with Martinelli, and this might be quite devastating for Chelsea. Alternatively, Declan Rice is not comfortable receiving the ball in crowded areas and might decide to move out, and this might see him create a 2v1 against Reece James or the right back who will start for Chelsea. This will be a great weapon for Arsenal. Alternatively, Gabriel Jesus might also drop from his number 9 position to come and create overloads against Chelsea deep in build-up. Now let's look at when Chelsea decide to sit off Arsenal and how Arsenal will arrange themselves. So if Chelsea decide to press with a 2-man front line of Palmer and Jackson, Arsenal will ensure they have the 2v1 overloads in the wide areas by having the back 3 system. This might see Sterling now being forced to track back, and also Ben White, we've seen him a couple of times making this run to try to overload the space down the right hand flank. This enables Arsenal to make quick shifts of play to Martinelli, who can now have a 1v1 against the fullback or a clear run on goal. Let's look at how Arsenal will line themselves up out of possession. So this is when Arsenal don't have the ball. So we know very well that Arsenal are a possession-based team, and like most possession-based team, they will try to win the ball high up the pitch as fast as possible. Arsenal like to employ their 4-1-3-2 system of press. This involves 2 forwards with Odegaard joining Jesus during the pressing, where they employ a piston press to force the play down the touchline. Thomas Partey is the free man who will now parole in between the lines, and this might force Chelsea to go long, where Arsenal is more likely to win the balls because of their dominant aggressive centre backs. Alternatively, Arsenal might also tempt Chelsea to play the ball through the middle, where they can use Rice's excellent ball-winning abilities to win the ball off Caicedo or Enzo and launch counter-attacks and catch out Chelsea in the game. Now, what happens when Chelsea are now in much settled possession and are trying to break Arsenal? Arsenal will move into their 4-4-2 block. The main aim of this block is to ensure they limit central progression. And once they win the ball in the center of the park, they will be quick to link up with Odegaard so that they can launch counters. Now let's look at Chelsea, and what will Chelsea do to stop this Arsenal team? So Chelsea will line up in a 4-3-3 system. The only change that I see is Jackson coming in for Armando Broja and Reece James coming back. And this will be a strong enough lineup, with Reece James having 2 weeks of international break to get back into match fitness. Let's look at Chelsea in possession. So Chelsea in possession might decide to play from the back by dropping their 2 centre-backs back, with Colwill starting quite wide, with Reece James starting quite high up. This might prompt Cole Palmer to come in midfield so that they can create this box midfield and a 2v1 against Thomas Partey. This might also spread Arsenal's front 2 who like to press, and they can use the passing range of either Sanchez or Thiago Silva to be playing the balls to the 2 pivots. This might be either through playing the ball to Colwill, who can play the ball to Enzo, who can now lay the ball to Conor Gallagher. Now Chelsea have a chance to be making these runs behind Arsenal's backline. This will be quite devastating for Arsenal, since now they will leave a lot of spaces for Chelsea, where the likes of Cole Palmer can play the ball in behind for the runs of Reece James, or Raheem Sterling, who will be making runs diagonally from his wide position. And this might also give Chelsea a clear chance on goal, especially for Raheem Sterling, who likes to make these runs beyond opposition defense line. But Pochettino can employ something that Manchester City did to effectively destroy Arsenal. This is what Pep Guardiola did at the Etihad to win 4-1 against Arsenal. And I'm going to show you this surprise that Pochettino can pull out for Mikel Arteta and beat him resoundingly. So Arsenal pressed Manchester City high up the pitch during their game at the Etihad, and Guardiola expected this, and so is Pochettino expecting this. Here you see Arsenal going into an aggressive high press with Odegaard pushing on to Ederson. This forces Ederson to play the ball to John Stones. John Stones receives the ball, and Arsenal continue with the aggressive high press, making John Stones go long. So when John Stones goes long, Haaland receives the ball, holds up the ball, holds up holding, and wins the 1v1 duel. Once he wins this, De Bruyne wins the second ball. He slips in De Bruyne in behind, and now De Bruyne is running at Arsenal's 2 centre backs. And you know, when De Bruyne is in this position, he finishes it cleanly, and Manchester City go 1-0 up quite early in the game. Guardiola repeated this tactic. You can see here Arsenal are aggressively pressing high. So Diaz plays the ball to Kyle Walker in this position. Arsenal are trying to use the touchline as the extra defender. So Bernardo Silva drops deep from his right wing position, plays the ball back to Kyle Walker as he has dragged Zinchenko. Walker plays a first time ball to Haaland, who's dropping deep into this position, and this enables him to drag out Gabriel from his defense line. He lays the ball onto De Bruyne, and De Bruyne is again having a clear run on goal. So Arsenal will not fear to press Chelsea high up the pitch. Therefore, Pochettino can use this tactic to beat Arsenal. We know Arsenal were scared of pressing Manchester City last game, but with Chelsea they will be more confident. So since Arsenal will like to deny Chelsea central progression of play, this is what Chelsea should do. Chelsea should start both their midfielders behind Arsenal's midfield and target to play long balls directly from goal kicks to Nicholas Jackson, who can win the ball and lay it down to Enzo or Gallagher, who will be pouncing to win the second balls. This can enable them to play through balls for the runs of Sterling, Palmer, and Gallagher, who will be making runs beyond him. Alternatively, Thiago Silva can also use his excellent passing range to play these balls in behind when Jackson pulls Saliba out of position and Sterling makes these diagonal runs. Chelsea need to exploit these spaces that will be created by Arsenal. So Arsenal sometimes might decide not to press Chelsea high up the pitch and settle in their mid 4-1-3-2 block. So here, Chelsea should ensure that they have the 2v1s in the wide areas, with Gallagher pushing to the left half space and Reece James giving the width down the right. And as well, Colwill should tuck in and play as a third centre-back, while Caicedo plays as a single pivot. The main aim is to outnumber Arsenal. So when Caicedo receives the ball, he can play the ball to Disasi, and Disasi can advance with the ball, pull out Martinelli, then play the ball to Reece James. Now in this position, Chelsea have outnumbered Arsenal's backline. The 1-2 with Palmer can be quite effective for Reece James, who is also quite excellent in the attacking phases of the game, where he can play the ball to Raheem Sterling, who can finish up in the far post. The role of Reece James will be quite important since he will act as a secondary winger in this game, with Colwill staying in behind. So let's look at what Chelsea can do out of possession, since majority of the time in this game, Arsenal are more likely to dominate possession. So let's see how Chelsea can be able to cope up with Arsenal and how effective are Arsenal with the ball. So Chelsea have usually pressed in a 4-2-3-1 narrow shape. The main aim is to use the energetic Jackson to make curved pressing runs where he forces Raya to play the ball on one side of the pitch, while the front three remain quite narrow and compact to allow Enzo and Caicedo to be picking the players in between the lines. The main aim is to force Arsenal down the wide areas, and if the ball is played to Martinelli, Reece James can be quite effective in winning the 1v1 against Martinelli and immediately launch counter-attacks. So what about when Chelsea are in a mid-block? Chelsea can revert back to the 4-3-3, and in this phase, the forward can be the only solo pressing player where they employ a piston press, forcing Arsenal to play the ball wide, where they can now shift across and engage a touchline press. The main aim of having these three midfielders is to deny Arsenal midfield overload, and as well as having a midfielder to track the runs of Odegaard or Declan Rice, who might be attempting to make runs in the half spaces. The main aim is to be winning these balls quick enough and immediately launching lethal counter attacks. This is something that Chelsea can exploit from Arsenal. So Mikel Arteta will be trying to ensure his team continue with their winning streak so that they can keep up momentum in their title race and build on the win against Manchester City. However, the game at Stamford Bridge will not be quite easy. On the other hand, Mauricio Pochettino will be attempting to continue his winning streak and get Chelsea back in the top half of the table. Chelsea have not conceded goals quite often this season, and this game gives Chelsea an opportunity to flex their muscles against a strong opposition. The roles of key players in this Pochettino team will determine how the game goes. That is our analysis today. Thanks for watching.